Welcome to My Life Lessons Showcasing Veterans. Today my guest is Jason Kercher. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you.
So take a minute, introduce yourself, and tell us how long you were of service and where you served.
Well, my name is Jason Kercher. I was in the military for 13 years. I broke it up a little bit and decided to join in the National Guard right out of high school. Did 4 years there, then went to the reserves, did 2 years there, and then finished out my career in the active duty.
Okay. Well, thank you for being part of this project.
Thank you.
So when you were in service, who was your inspiration?
My inspiration was my stepfather. He did 20 years retired. Growing up as a military brat, you kind of get used to that, mindset and growing up. So it was a good choice.
What was it about that inspired you?
The constant knowing what's going on. You have set stuff. You have time frames, where to be, when to be there. It's all about knowing what's going on.
Really? So it's like feeling informed?
Yes.
And knowing where you were going next?
Absolutely.
Okay. What was the greatest life lesson that you learned during your time of service?
I would have to say my greatest life lesson was after being deployed, not taking anything for granted, because you never know what you're going to end up with. Life is short, and you can't hold anything to one thing, because it's never going to be that way. Things change in an instant. So.
Did you have that mindset before you went in?
No.
No.
I was that young party goer. Let's just do whatever, whenever.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Was it a big surprise for you?
Yes and no. Like I said, growing up with my stepdad, it kind of made it a little easier to adapt once in the process of going through boot camp and stuff like that. So I just had to remember after I got there that it wasn't party time no more.
So was he able to ease that for you a little bit, as far as, since he inspired you and you were inspired by his service, did that ease the expectation and what you thought you might have to go through?
Yeah, we stayed in communications. He wrote me letters and stuff, and if I was feeling down, he told me what to expect, and just little nicks and knacks to get through the whole process. Mm-hmm. And it helped out a lot. It was good.
So this life lesson, okay, knowing that you can't take things for granted and things can change in a minute, how did you apply that lesson to life after service?
Well, now that I have 3 children, I like to spend as much time as I can with them. Again, you never know what the next minute holds. So at any point in time, I could be gone, they could be gone, anything could happen. So.
Mm-hmm. Do you find yourself sharing that mindset now with others?
I've been instilling it in my kids, making sure they understand that, you got to wake up, do what you got to do in the morning, chores, brush your teeth, stuff like that. And, make sure whenever they see, the biggest thing I do now is when they see a veteran, I make them go up and say thank you, and make sure that they understand that they got to earn what they get. Nothing comes free. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. Do you find yourself with your colleagues or peers that you share the life lesson of not taking things for granted? Do you find yourself sharing that message?
When we talk, goof around at work or whatever, I do mention a lot of the times that once you have a certain thing, not to let it run your life, because it could change in a minute. So you got to make sure that what you're doing is always on task.
And does that apply to stress or particular incidents?
You can pretty much apply it to any time. Mm-hmm. There's times where stress gets to be too much. You just got to step back and look at it. It was just the other day I saw on Facebook tragedy of a friend that I went to high school with just committed suicide. Mm-hmm. So again, I look at that and think about not taking things for granted. Because again, everything could change in an instant. You mm-hmm. never know what to expect. So,
how did your years of service and all the experiences that you went through, how did they impact your life in general?
Some good, some bad. I tend to get angry very quickly with, I don't want to be too harsh and say stupidity of people, but when you realize people take things for granted and you sit there and you can see from a different point of view as they're complaining about certain things, you tend to want to help them understand that not everything is that way. You know, you got to open their mind so they understand that, you know, hey, you know, I could do this now, but 5 minutes from now, something else could come up that we're going to have to adjust and make something else happen. So, you know, it just goes minute by minute. You can't judge anything. You can't, as much as you want to plan for everything, you can only plan to a certain point, and then you got to adjust as you're going.
So that seems to me to be your common theme, is that it has been the flexibility and the moment by moment changes in life and so forth, that has been a huge impact on you.
Absolutely. Yeah, pretty much.
How have you, or do you have an example of maybe something that has happened where you went, no, based on my experience in the military, I'm not going to do this?
I don't know that I can think of anything offhand.
Mm-hmm. Or tolerate, or teach. Because I would think you would have some great lessons to teach around that area that don't take this for granted.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, because that's what I'm hearing you learned, but also that you share. So I would imagine that there have to be some work incidents or life incidents where you're like, no, you're making this too big because it could go away. Or that's what I'm hearing from you.
I guess living it all the time, you can't really pick one thing because you know, it's just something that you do. I guess I do it now so natural that I just don't realize that I do it most of the time.
It's become a habit.
Absolutely.
Mm. What does honor mean to you?
Honor means a lot. You hear about all the stolen valor, you hear about you know, just the bad choices that individuals make, whether it's military related or not. If you hold yourself to a certain standard, it makes it a little easier to not make bad decisions. Obviously, you're human, everybody's going to make mistakes. But when you're holding yourself to a certain standard and loyalty and honor and stuff like that, you know, you go through life and it helps you out. It makes you, I guess, more acceptable for what's around you.
And almost, it sounds like accountable.
Yeah.
You're held accountable. What does freedom mean to you?
Freedom? I don't know. That's a good question, because freedom, nothing's free, and that's a big thing to me. You know, everybody says, "Well, we live in a free world." Well, yeah, you have choices, but it doesn't come free. You know, we lost brothers and sisters. You know, they gave the ultimate sacrifice. So to them, how is that free? Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it.
Mm-hmm. That's a powerful lesson, that nothing is free.
Absolutely.
People take that for granted, don't they?
Yes.
As well as honor, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see those two going hand in hand?
Absolutely.
Honor and freedom?
And loyalty.
And loyalty.
Absolutely.
Oh, those are important words. Thank you, Jason, so very much for showing up for this very, very important project, and also thank you for serving.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
These life lessons are made possible in part by Tompkins Vist Bank, Lords and Ladies Salons, and Riverfront Federal Credit Union.